1 cent. I would. I tally every coin in my pocket, and if I come up short, I'm really upset, even by 1 cent. Am I healthy? I checked with my shrink a little while ago, and she said I'm okay. A little odd at the edge, but okay. Careful with ethics, and the item I would want you to avoid is developing a situational way of thinking about ethics and ethical behavior. There are some exceptions that we're going to see when we get down to the ethics theories, because moral philosophers have historically differed in defining what is ethical and unethical. Now, I did this in Mexico, and I have done it in Brazil. What do you think the Mexican students would do with the 4th item? Meaning the wallet with the identification. No, I back up. Not that one, because if it has the identification, you can find the person. The 3rd one, with no identification. And I translated that to pesos, which is about 10,000 10,000 pesos. Gets real close to that. They were emphatic that they would not take it to the police. That doesn't even enter the mindset. In France, it got a little, edgy. I was in Normandy, away from Paris, and they, in the particular city where they felt fairly confident that things were okay, and they might take it to the police, a lost and found kind of thing. So what I have found with this is enormous differences when operating in the international environment. Okay. Now, another distinction that we need to make is between legal and ethical behavior. Some of the elements of the E exercise that you did in here or did before coming into class had legal components to them, and we'll look at those as we go through the results. And legal behavior and illegal behavior is defined by the code of law, both locally and in the U.S., locally, at the state level, and at the federal level. So there are certain things that break the law when you do them. And I'm going to give you my favorite, two of my favorites, because I have a 4-way stop sign right on the corner of my property. 98% of the drivers do not stop. And I'm waiting for that Lamborghini to come through my fence. And I told the sheriff I'm going to keep it once it lands on my property. And there is one of the people that lives north of me has a really nice sports car and goes racing through there. And because there's 2 blind corners to it, I'm waiting for this guy to get nailed. And I want his car. Now, it's illegal. What is the rule for a stop sign in New Mexico?
2 seconds.
Pardon?
When it comes to a complete stop.
Complete stop. What does a complete stop mean?
Wheels are not moving.
Wheels are not turning. And that's how the police define it. I actually had a police officer in my class, and he said, wheels are not turning. And do you notice, and maybe you do the same thing, in California we used to call it the California rolling stop, where you kind of slow down a little bit and keep on going. That's the way we drove in California. It was crazy. In Massachusetts, I was driving a rental car about 10 or 12 or 20 years ago, and I had lived there until I was 17 and a half. And I was in a neighborhood I was familiar with, and I stopped at a stop sign completely, and the guy behind me honked his horn as if I wasn't supposed to stop. Well, that's my first item. The second one is, what are you supposed to do in New Mexico when before changing lanes anywhere or making a turn, right or left?
Signal 100 feet.
So signal is at about 100 feet before you, okay, I couldn't remember that part. But you are supposed to turn on a signal or use a hand signal. If sometimes motorcyclists don't have signals, so that, by the way, is the right turn, and if you can remember it, that's the left turn, in the good old days. Now, I'm not seeing it. Just this morning, coming in about 9 o'clock, I didn't see it. My point here is the law governs it. Yet, the law, as people have told me, isn't always there to watch. So therefore, the person's values guide whether they're going to behave accordingly. Then we get over to the right, and this is intended, that piece in the center is intended to give fuzziness, and I just didn't design it as well as I suppose I could have. But on the ethical side, it's a business of lying to a customer about the product safety of something that you are selling, and as a salesperson, in most situations, you're aware of any difficulties with a product. So, for example, with these fancy flat-screen televisions, they're $2,000, $3,000, and even more, much more than that. You may have one model left on the floor, and that morning you receive a notice that that particular model has been reported by the manufacturer as having a safety flaw that would probably affect only 0.1% of all the products sold. And it's not at the level of a recall. You don't know about the particular product that you're trying to sell, and a customer comes in, wants to buy it, but you know there could be a safety problem with it. Here, ethical behavior would guide what you do, and not necessarily the law. The fuzzy part, and this is in the E exercise, is how does my hair look? And I'm not going to come back to that. We'll go to the exercise after a while. Now, there are ethical values of societies and individuals. And don't copy these slides. They're actually embedded in the PowerPoint slides. I'm using these as a summary. The ethic of justice and I'm looking at figure 3.2 deliberately, was the earliest version of this line of thinking, which was designated as predominantly characteristic of men. Now, I would like the men to ponder what I'm going to say here and then react to it. And I'll go through both, because I would like the women to look at the second one, which is called the ethic of care. So the first, ethic of justice, is attributed mainly to men. The second, ethic of care, is attributed mainly to women. Under the ethic of justice, you use abstract rules, and you do not focus on feelings and relationships. Under the ethic of care, there's an integration of emotions and feelings and personal relationships into the ethical decision that a person makes. The example, and partly this is in the E exercise, is turning in your mother for having committed an illegal act or foreclosing on her defaulted mortgage. Let's assume you hold the mortgage to the home that she is living in. These are not made-up situations. A lot of this stuff I discovered from reading the press and learn about these types of events. So men, according to the research, primarily you're going to make ethical decisions based on rules. And you're not going to care too much about feelings. That's the business of Nicole asking me how does the shorts look, and I tell her. I didn't care about the feelings, and you reacted rather strongly to it. And Debbie reacted extremely strongly to that particular decision. Women, you bring emotions and feelings and personal relationships into the decision about behaving ethically. All right? Men, is this true of you? No? You bring feelings into your decision?
Well, when it comes to dealing with my mom, yeah. I wouldn't turn my mom in for something.
Oh, I would. I'd have no trouble doing it at all. I'm doing this deliberately with you. I'm giving you an honest answer and an honest reaction. But
I would never turn my mom in.
Okay. Keep going. Men, do you focus on feelings?